Hey, so one of the things that's been bothering me recently is kind of the disorganization that I have in my shop. And one of the things that I'm going to do to combat this is I'm going to do a bit of organizing today and making some tool holders that go above the lathe here. Let's go have a look. So this project here is going to be made out of some scrap metal that I got just laying around on the floor here. Um, part, part of the cleanup process, but it sure is pretty handy to have it around. So let's throw this up on the workbench here and let's get it laid out. So today I'm going to use my Milwaukee Sharpie. Now these Milwaukee Sharpies, don't worry, I don't get paid or any of that stuff, and I want to shy away from that kind of stuff. But the Milwaukee Sharpies are way better than your regular Sharpies because they don't seem to dry out or bung up as easy. So let's give this here a whirl with this one here. So our first step that we're going to have is we're just actually going to cut that bottom part right off. So let's mark that off. So our first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut this bottom piece of scrap off. We're actually going to cut that off last because that's actually going to be a holder for us to hold on to. Then I'm going to pull the ruler up here. We're going to mark that off straight right there. Then we're going to go up, I think it's 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to make a bit of a mark. And these are going to be the fold marks for everything. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut little divots on the inside of it that's actually going to make it fold a little bit better. Let's actually grab one of these and we'll actually fit it up to this groove on the inside here. So the groove on the inside here is 1.5 inches. So we want 1.5 inches coming out up through the middle here, right? So this is a 3-inch piece of metal. So in theory, we go a mark there and a mark there, and that should give us our 1.5 inches. So I'm going to cheat. So I'm going to cheat here a little bit because I've got my mark there, and I'm going to show you a little trick for stuff like this that's not absolutely perfect, and it's just a holder. A lot of you guys already know about this, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to gauge our finger on the side right there, and then we're just going to hold it, and then just pivot our hand over till it touches, and then we'll drag it all the way along here. Come back over to the other side, put our finger here, nice and comfortable. Okay, and then we lock all of our fingers in, and just like that. Now let's check my work to see how close it is. There's a slight 1/16 of an inch out. I probably could go a little bit fatter on that one side, but close enough. So let's see here. If we cut on that line, we'll be just under 1.5 inches, and that's probably pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we need these divots to go in a bit and stop. So we only want it to go in, say, probably about 1/4 inch, right? Probably to about right there and right about there. We use the same technique that we got here. So if you're starting to panic and get a little bit worried about the fact that you're not quite understanding what we're building yet, it's going to make a lot more sense once we go over to the bandsaw and cut it out. So let's go over and do that right now, and it'll start making a little bit more sense to you. Now, this is my horizontal bandsaw that I just took the shock off and made it a vertical bandsaw, and it's been working out pretty well just for little odd jobs like this. I'm going to start cutting where the release bends are going to be situated. Now, the reason why I start here is cutting over a long distance is actually going to get it a little bit straighter and make that bend probably a little bit straighter than it would be if I just cut all the other material out first and then come back and cut this. This is a pretty amazing little machine, this bandsaw actually. It's been pretty good over the years and it's seen a lot of service life. And I think a little bit later, I think I'm going to clean this bad boy up and throw it out in the side shop, especially when I build that metal rack, so I can process the metal out there and store it out of the way. Now that I've just about got all these relief cuts out of the way, I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut all that excess material off. And notice how I left that little tongue on the bottom there that my thumb's holding onto? Now, I'm sure you don't have scrap that looks like this, but I left a little bit extra material on there just so I can hold it and keep my fingers a little bit further away from that moving blade. It might have been a little bit beneficial for the cutting process to put a little bit of cutting oil on the blade, but I didn't really want it to get in the way of the actual precision cutting that I'm doing here. Well, reasonably precision cutting, as you can say, on a bandsaw, and because it would just smear up and then it would get in the way. Oh, in case I didn't mention it earlier, this is just 1/8 inch plain carbon steel that I'm cutting here. So the bandsaw has no trouble going through it, but it's still going to have the rigidity to hold up all the tool bit holders. Now let's flip this around, and then we'll cut this tail off here. And the reason why I flipped that around there is I have the side of the blade to kind of gauge it and run it along to keep it straight. Then we're going to take her outside, and we're going to fold this up real quick on the vise, and it's going to start looking like a hanger. So I found on these, a couple of them fit just a little bit tight, which is good, because we always can take more material off. So let's take it over to the bench grinder here, and we'll just clean them up just a little bit so we got a good edge. I'm actually going to use the finer greenstone because it gives a better surface finish. Okay, what I found out now that I'm on my fourth one is there's a few little tricks to it, and let's talk about that quick here. So first off, the small one is the most important one to bend. So I'm actually just going to bend this over roughly by hand. Pardon my hand's in the way here. I just tap it with a hammer, but the camera's kind of in the way for me. And you can actually see it's a little bit off to an angle. Now maybe that's because I cut it a little bit at an angle, or I actually bent it a bit of an angle. Now I'll loosen that up here. Now that's roughly 90 degrees. We're going to line these surface lines here just above the surface of this here, and that way it'll give it somewhere to go when we try bending it over. And we're going to tighten that right tight. And then we're also going to have to give this part here some room to go when we tap this over. That's looking pretty good, I think. Let's drill some holes in there and we'll put them up on the wall. Okay, let's take these over to the mill machine here now. I took the liberty of grabbing a screw, and now this is similar to what the screw we're going to use for throwing it in there. Now, basically what I did was here, it's not a high precision thing, really, I'm screwing it to the wall. So basically what I did was I dragged my hand just along here. We're going to create a couple center lines just so it's aesthetically pleasing. I don't know what this method's called, but this method's actually working pretty good for low precision stuff like this. And you know what, we're just going for eye. So if it looks crooked, I'm going to go back and fix it, but I'm actually going to probably snap a line on the wall or something when I get over there. We'll make sure that the actual posts are going to be level and straight. Now, this has a lot of potential for spinning. So we're going to make sure that we clamp this little part down. Now, it's pretty janky holding it down, and I know so many people get tempted to do that. I watched a YouTuber the other day do it, and he knew it was coming. And he even laughed at himself about it too. I thought that was pretty cool. Don't worry, he didn't get hurt or nothing. But so we're gonna make sure we clamp it down here so we don't recreate that business. So let's throw it in here. So let's throw it in here. Now I've got a parallel underneath there just to keep it up at the height. And remember, this is just a rough drilling of a hole. Slide this over here, get pretty close to it. Now the reason why we want to go a little bit off on this is because we want the actual screw to come up from the other side, and we won't be able to get through that post there. Now you see how that's kind of walking off to the side there? It's got a bit of potential to break that drill bit, and well, lucky for me, I'm just using some cheap Princess Auto drill bits for drilling this, so if I break one, I break one. It's not a big deal. So it's pretty much as simple as that. We'll knock that burr off there a little bit later, and we'll throw some paint on it. Things that I learned here with painting, and today we're using, I think it's Rust Coat, just a standard gray. Got it at Home Hardware. Is always give it a really light coat on your first coat. The reason for that is it's going to give the next coat of paint something to adhere to, and you're going to see the fish eyes right away if you do have some oil left on there. But I don't think we're going to have any problem with that today, so why don't we get this finished up? Now it really comes down to preference, how it's put down on the wall. Originally I just put them all on a line like I had said, but then I found out shortly after that wasn't going to work, so I had to take them apart and kind of stagger them. And the reason for that's pretty simple. If I didn't stagger them, the boring bar wasn't going to fit up there. I've been using this now for about 2 or 3 days, and it's working out quite well. I mean, the chips aren't hitting too much on it, and I just make sure I turn the lathe off before I reach across and grab them. I'll throw the blueprints up on my Facebook site in case you want to see how I made it. Hey, it was really cool hanging out with you today, and this was just a fun, easy video that I'm sure all of you machinists and shop guys are thinking about doing as well. I definitely encourage you to do this. I like how it's working out for me so far. And hey, don't forget the cost of admission is a thumbs up. And if you like this video, you're probably gonna like this video, or you can even subscribe down here to my channel, and we'll catch you on the next one. You still there? Okay, we will see you on the next one.